This week, Saturday, on DR Sports, we're going to be hosting a very special watch-along. It's UFC 286, and we're going to be doing a watch-along to the big fight. It is Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. You've got to come and check it out live here on DR Sports. I'm going to be hosting it with our brand new MMA host, Zaki, who'll be giving you the lowdown on the fight. Yeah, easy, bro.
You ready?
What's all that? What's all this?
You said you're gonna get stuck in. We're gonna.
No, I ain't signed up for that. No.
What do you mean? That's what we said we're gonna do. Okay, we'll worry about Robbie in a sec. But listen, make sure you join us on Saturday evening from 9 o'clock. UFC 286, Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, the trilogy fight. Who's gonna win? We'll find out on Saturday. Make sure you join us. Robbie, I swear we're gonna go live. I'm tapping.
Hi and welcome to the very first UFC preview here on DR Sports. My name is Zaki. I'm here with Turkish, who's a big UFC fan. If you didn't already know, Turkish feels good, doesn't it? Finally, we've been talking about this for a while and it's actually happening.
It's finally here, Saturday, and it's a big card as well. I think a big card in London was well overdue. Big credit to Leon Edwards for getting the belt last time out. And it just made sense that the trilogy fight happens in London.
And let's get straight into it, really. I mean, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I'm excited because it's a hard one to call. It's a hard one to call. I mean, you know, a bit of history behind the rivalry between Usman and Edwards. You know, if you're a UFC fan, you know, Usman took the first fight. Edwards recently took the second fight. But it was a long road back for Edwards from that first loss to Usman. I think it was very early on in his UFC career. I think when he lost that fight, he was two wins, 2 losses. A lot of question marks about, you know, whether this was too big of a step up for him. You know, I've seen stories about his upbringing and how difficult it was for him, and how, you know, his mum pushed him into combat sports to, you know, offer some more protection for him in his life. And slowly but surely, he's got his name, and he's deserved a title shot for a few years now. For a good few years, and you know, with the landscape of the welterweight division and Usman's rivalry with Colby and Masvidal getting involved here and there, Edwards just had to wait his chance. I remember there was a fight scheduled or in the talks to be scheduled with Khamzat, which would have been massive as well. I'm actually glad that one kind of got parked off.
Same, yeah.
I'm interested to see it moving forward, but I'm glad it got parked off because I just feel like the work Edwards done, the quality he has technically, he deserved that rematch against Usman, and Usman being the pound for pound champ at the time.
Yeah,
it was a big opportunity for Leon, and he got the job done. So I'm very excited about this one because after that fight as well, Zaki, it just feels like things have been not necessarily unraveling for Usman, but there's been a lot more stories coming out about his knees and how much damage
walking backwards down the stairs.
Walking backwards down the stairs. He addressed that recently. He doesn't have to walk backwards down the stairs. He just does it to prolong his career at the top. And
it's still a bit suspect though, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest with you, listen, people might call it cheap, but you know, as in the UFC, in combat sports, you got to take advantage of your opponent's weaknesses, and I think Edwards will be looking at that weakness and potentially going for it. Leg shots. I can see a lot of leg shots there from Leon, because in my opinion, Leon's one of the best strikers in MMA.
Yes, and we're very lucky to have him in the UK as our welterweight champion. It kind of gives us this new, especially with the UK MMA scene the way it is now, it's growing on the back of Leon Edwards having got that strap.
100%. And it's been a little while since, you know, the UFC have had a champ in their ranks from the UK. It's been a little while since we've had a big card like that. So I'd probably say this is the biggest card since maybe Bisping Silva.
Yeah, for London, that's probably the only real rival to this. Wouldn't you say?
100%. And it's on my birthday as well this Saturday.
It's a shame that because you're not going to be joining us for the watch along.
I'm either going to be there, which I'm still looking at tickets, because initially when the tickets came out, I was looking at the prices thinking, I don't know, does Dana think this is Vegas? It's only London.
Exactly. There's a cost of living crisis here, dude.
And to be honest, a friend of mine went over to watch Khabib and McGregor, the infamous fight.
Of course.
And he paid less for that one than people are paying to see, you know, Edwards Usman in London. And
it's mental.
I've just been biding my time, waiting, checking the tickets every day, and the prices are dropping.
They are, okay.
So I might go in for it, but as it's my birthday, if I don't go to the actual fight, then I'll be spending it with friends, watching the fight on the TV somewhere in a bar or doing something around it. So I'm actually upset that I can't be here for the first UFC watch along as well, because I am a fan of the sport.
Yeah, we're gonna miss you.
You know, moving forward, I'll be there.
Yeah, well, it's nice that you're blessing the stream with this preview as well. Let's talk about the other fight as well, the co-main. I mean, obviously there's many other fights, but the co-main specifically, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I mean, this has got fight of the night written all over it, hasn't it?
It does. I mean, any fight with Gaethje on it could be a potential fight of the night.
Yeah, but now even with Fiziev, just the fights he's been having, he's an absolute beast. So 2 very exciting fights on that main card to look forward to for anyone who's going to be watching.
And it's another interesting one for me, because I assume they're just going to go bang for bang. I think you're going to see a lot of striking there. But with Gaethje, I mean, he's
become more technical, hasn't he?
He has, but he's a very good wrestler as well.
Yeah, exactly.
All-American, and I'm surprised he doesn't utilize that more in the UFC. It just seemed that in a lot of his fights, he needs to get a couple shots before he kind of wakes up. But I don't think you can do that against Fiziev. I really don't. I feel like Fiziev's power.
Yeah, he can end you in 1.
100%. And I don't know. I just feel like, has Gaethje kind of come over the hill in a sense where a couple of years ago, it looked like he was destined for not necessarily a title, because Khabib was about.
Yeah, exactly.
He was destined to become a UFC champion in some way, shape, or form, but it just hasn't worked out for him. From Khabib, it was Oliveira, and listen, the quality in this division, in my opinion, is probably the best division in the past few years, in my honest opinion, in terms of competition.
Classically, it has been. And with Gaethje as well, interestingly, his rhetoric leading up to this fight, talking about Fiziev, has been, I heard him say, I think it was on Embedded, Fiziev reminds me of when I first dropped on the scene, and blah, blah. Yeah. And when you're talking about yourself like that, it's indicative of the mindset that you have of, I am getting on a bit. I am kind of, and he's training with Kamaru Usman, who's obviously in the later part of his career. He also trains with Thug Rose, all under Trevor Whitman. There's a chance that she might not even fight again. So they're all kind of in that mindset now of like, we're older fighters, we're on the tail end of our careers maybe. Yeah. So maybe that shared, being on the same mat and having that shared kind of mindset, maybe that's not even too healthy, as good as a coach Trevor Whitman is.
Yeah, pick up Trevor Whitman for sure. But there was a quote from Gaethje recently. I think he said something along the lines of, I've got to get it whilst I can. And that kind of falls into what you're saying as well. It just sounds like, it's coming to the tail end of his career, get the money in now. But at the same time, you can never underestimate Gaethje. Yeah. Because he has the power as well. He has the striking ability as well. He's got the entertainment factor too. Yeah. As much as we've just talked about Fiziev and the, his power and knockout potential in this fight, Gaethje's got a lot of power too. And Gaethje's got a chin on him. Yeah. We've seen that. We've seen that over the years. So as much as it does sound like Gaethje's at the tail end now, we know we're in for an entertaining fight. I'd lean towards Fiziev. We'll probably do predictions towards the end of the show. I'd lean towards Fiziev. We'll talk about how later on. But I'm sure it's going to be a banger of a fight. It could potentially outdo the main in Leon Edwards and Usman.
I think it has got strong potential to do that. But interestingly enough, it's a UK card. There's not a lot of the usual suspects that you'd find on a UK card. There's Darren Till has been released from the UFC on his own request. You haven't got Paddy there. Meatball Molly McCann isn't there. Tom Aspinall, Arnold Allen, Nathaniel Wood. A lot of those kind of part of the furniture type fighters for a UFC London card aren't there. How do you feel about that? Because there's obviously cases for both. On one hand, there's a lot of fans saying, oh, well, we don't need to have London fighters or UK fighters when there's a London card. We want to see other fighters as well. But then there's also other people who are like, no, we want to support our homegrown fighters.
I lean towards you don't have to have a card stacked with the UK just because it's in the UK. Reason being because most of the UFC stars, most of the champions and the best in the world are from other areas in the world, and that's why I think this card is the biggest since Bisping and Silva. But I would have liked to see Aspinall. I think slowly but surely he was building his name until that knee injury, which kind of set him back. And it'd be interesting to see how he comes back from that, because he was on the path to a title shot as well. And we know
100%.
the champion now is Jones. We might get into that slowly in the heavyweight division. Paddy, for me, is an interesting one. Okay, with Molly, she got finished in her last fight. So maybe there's question marks about where to take her next. But I think those same question marks lie with Paddy as well.
100%.
Because against Jared Gordon, in my honest opinion, he lost that fight.
Yeah.
Gordon had more strikes, more takedowns.
I think most people think that he lost that fight.
I just feel like, it's similar to boxing as well. Sometimes, they want their potential next stars to have a clean record moving forward, because that just reads a lot better. But they must be in an interesting position with Paddy, because I feel like if he dominated that last fight, if he took Gordon out efficiently, I feel like he would have been on this card. Probably would have been co-main against a next level fighter to step up. But now looking at that fight, I feel like Dana and the UFC are probably thinking the next step up could be it for Paddy. Because he struggled with Gordon, so the next step up might be.
So they're waiting.
So maybe they save that for a Vegas or save that for a bigger money maker. But I would have liked to see Aspinall. Unfortunately, not due to I don't know where he is with his recovery. I haven't really checked up recently. I would have liked to see Paddy because of the hype and you know what that's about. Aside from that, listen, I think we got what's his name, Mohammed Makaev on the prelims. I think he's kicking it off. I'm interested to see his career flourish. I know he's had the back-to-back with Paddy online as well, which has kind of got quite deep in terms of what they've been saying to each other. More so Paddy to him, but
I mean, some of the things that Paddy has said is hard to defend, to be honest.
100%. But it just seemed like in the UFC, a lot of things happen, a lot of things are said, and because of the nature of the sport, not much is made of it. I think you put those sort of comments or that sort of attitude in any other sport, you've got problems. Potential cancellation, as the internet likes to say. But I'm interested to see him. I think he's undefeated. He's a British fighter as well. So all in all, I'm happy with the card the way it is. I don't know what you think. Would you have preferred to see more UK fighters because it's in the UK, or do you think it shouldn't really matter? It should be the best card possible. I
don't think it should matter. I think it's important to feel like the UFC is an international establishment. Obviously it's an American-based company, but the whole point of the UFC having international cards is that we can see fighters from different regions of the world. So we do have kind of Makwan Amerikani on there, who's from Finland. You've got gosh, who else? I need to have a look. But there's obviously some people. You've got Marvin Vittori, of course, who's the Italian dream. So you've definitely got people from this region, fighters from this region that are worth seeing and worth keeping an eye on, and will likely bring good fights to watch. What we've seen from the past 2 London cards is, and this is probably one of the reasons why they're doing one of the numbered events in the UK, is because we've seen bangers and we've seen the fighters bring it, because there's something about the buzz of a London card which I've not seen on a lot of cards in the US or anywhere in the world. There's just recently there's been fun, but I'm not sure how much of that we can attribute directly to the partnership of hype between McCann and Paddy the Baddy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't attribute much to it though. That's the thing, because it's not like they've achieved great things to bring that crowd. I just feel like the UK crowd in general. Listen, boxing's been a big part of British sport for many decades now. UFC's been rising over the last couple. I just feel like hand in hand, slowly but surely, the UK and combat sport fan base was gonna jump on the bandwagon and get involved. And over the years, that's exactly what's happened. Dana White always mentions it as well. He loves coming to London and he loves the energy, and it's something special, it's something different. You get a lot of the football chants at the UFC fights as well in London, which is different for the American crowd. I just think combat sports and British people, it just works.
Yeah.
You know, historically with boxing, more recently with the UFC and mixed martial arts.
It is right up our street, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a very multicultural society as well, you know,
Yes.
in the UK, London more so, and seeing competing martial artists from different areas of the world, just like you said, it adds to the fun of it, adds to the engagement of it. It makes it something special, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And actually, one other guy who isn't going to be, one of the fighters who's not going to be on this card, who's a up and coming London fighter, is the comeback king, Modestas Bukauskas.
Yeah.
But that's fine, because we did get a chance to have a little catch up with him. And here's actually a short preview of that conversation that I had with him. Who did you really enjoy kind of training with when you were out there? And, you know, I'd love to hear some stories.
Yeah,
man.
no, of course. Well, as you all know, I trained with John Jones quite a lot. I remember the first time I'd met him, obviously I came in, you know, he came up to me, shook my hand, I introduced myself, and you know, obviously I had massive respect. I was very starstruck when I first met him. And, you know, it was very nice that I'd already been there previously, and I'd actually trained out with Andrei Arlovsky the first time round, and we did a load of rounds together. He actually paid for me to stay an extra week just to help him with his own training. So that was amazing that I got that experience. But then obviously word goes around the gym. John Jones already knew who I was when I walked into the gym, or at least heard of me. And then we ended up getting rounds together. We ended up, you know, building a bit of a friendship, and you know, obviously, like we were training partners. Do you know what I mean? We'd literally spar each other all the time. So it was amazing. His wrestling is on an absolute another level, and obviously, as evidently shown by his performance against Garn, it already at that point, it was freaking next level. And I was only 22. This guy was, I think, 27 or close to 28. So he was very much within his prime at the time. You could see why he's so good. You know, you can see why he's the greatest of all time. He's very methodical about everything. I think this was at the time when he was trying to sort of rehab himself and not party as much and stuff like that. You know, he was kind of like, you know, he stuck to himself. He was really focused and dialed in at training sessions. You know, he has a bit of his playful side, but you can see he was just a lot more focused around the time, because this was his fight leading up to his OSP fight. So he was supposed to fight Cormier, and then it got changed and stuff like that. And it was nice for the coaches to see my skill set and you know, to want to utilize me as his training partner. And yeah, I learned a lot of amazing things from him, you know what I mean? But you could see there's a bit of a darkness to him, you know? As much as he's an amazing guy, a very nice guy, you know, beautiful character, he has a bit of a darkness, which does come out, and it does come out in training a little bit. And do you know what? I think that's what makes him so good, because when he needs to turn it on, he can turn it on. And this is something that I've only just learned at 29 years old.
Yeah, so you can watch the full interview on DR Sports. We got into a lot of stuff, talking about his training with John Jones, John Jones's dark side, Modestas' own dark side, you know, coming up and kind of coming back to the UFC. Not a lot of people do that. When they do it, it's something to talk about, because that's a hard road to go down, to get cut from the UFC, to not listen to the doubters, and to just keep your head down and keep focused and come back is big, and it's inspirational. And, you know, hats off to Modestas. I think he's got some big fights coming up, and I really hope he becomes champion in the future.
Yeah, you need a certain level of heart to not only be in the UFC but come back from injuries.
It's so
as
inspirational,
well.
man.
And you need a dark side too. You need a dark side. I mean,
Yeah.
I think all the champions, all the GOATs in the UFC, they've all got a dark side in some way, shape or form. It's something necessary in combat sport. I think the same with boxing too. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, a lot of
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor, yeah.
Slapping old people in pubs and stuff.
Yeah,
You know?
so I think it just goes hand in hand with combat sports as well, which is something that certain people look down on. But at the same time, you know, look at how the sport is growing in terms of the UFC over the years. There is definitely a loyal support that comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, my final question before we start looking towards Saturday is, what are your thoughts on not necessarily Power Slap as a league, but who do you think would be the standout crossover fighter from the UFC to Power Slap, if any?
Stand out. First and foremost, I don't really enjoy Power Slap, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'm just curious because they're pushing it on us like it's going out of fashion.
I mean,
so I'm
the
just
UFC social
we have
media,
to start talking about it at some point.
The UFC social media's page has turned into a Power Slap page.
Exactly.
Crossover fighter into Power Slap. That's a very good question.
Who do you think would make a good Power Slap athlete?
Fiziev would probably make a good one, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. Can you let us know in the comments who you think would be the greatest crossover, from current UFC roster over to Power Slap? And who's enough of a company man or a company woman to actually want to go and do that? Because they'd be doing it to appease Dana White, no doubt.
100%. And to be honest with you, when you mentioned it to me, I thought to myself, I never thought of that. A crossover, and I think that probably will happen considering the hype that would bring.
Yeah.
So I'd say Fiziev. I'd say that, listen, a lot of them are used to getting punched, kicked, elbowed, thrown around, wrestled, choked. So, to a lot of the UFC mixed martial artists, I think the Power Slap would be light work for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then the CTE factor is pretty huge. Okay, let's look forward at the event. We're going to be watching the whole card. The main card from 9 o'clock on DR Sports. But I'm curious for the co-main and the main fights, what your predictions are. So let's start with Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev.
Justin Gaethje, listen, in both fights, anything can happen, but I'm going to lean towards Fiziev here. Yeah. I just think Gaethje's open, bang for bang style doesn't bode well against someone like Rafael. The power he has, the technical striking he has. And he talks about, his wrestling too. I've seen, recent interviews with him saying, don't get it twisted, I can wrestle as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be seeing much of his wrestling against Gaethje. We don't see much of Gaethje's wrestling in many of his fights. But I think Fiziev will get the knockout in two.
In two, yeah? I'm going to go with one. Knockout in one. Yeah, just because I feel like he's on the rise and Justin Gaethje's going down the same hill, So I think, he's kind of a passing of the baton type fight like you see with like a Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya. That sort of kind of, you can be the new crazy dude in the division, And I feel like Justin is seeing that and has spoken about it. He's put it out into the universe. So I feel like that mindset is going to be indicative of the finish on Saturday.
And I feel like Justin goes for bonuses and fights of the night as well. So I wouldn't be surprised the first round he just lays it all on the line and gets caught. I wouldn't be surprised. But we do agree that Fiziev will probably get the win.
I think so. Yeah, by a knockout. Yeah. It's gonna be a highlight one. And okay, the main event.
Over the weeks I've been thinking about this main event, and I've gone from one side to the other side, from one side to the other side. I'd love nothing more for Edwards to go and do exactly what he did again in better fashion. Go finish it inside 5.
Absolutely.
Get the knockout, TKO, whatever it is, stop Usman. But I just can't see past Usman making it a dull affair, getting his championship back through, wrestling in the first
foot stomps and
in the second fight, I feel like he didn't let his guard down per se, because the strike was a beautiful strike. It was set up beautifully as well. Listen, anyone can be caught with that. But in the 5th round, it just felt like he didn't take it to the ground as much as he did in the first 4.
Sure.
Thinking that I'm 3-1 up, and Edwards knew this. I'm going to win this, so let me enjoy myself a little bit. So I think that was his downfall. Whereas in this one, looking at where Usman is, his age, and what he's done in the sport, I feel like he's just gonna want to win it back. However that may happen, he's not too interested in lifting up the crowd. So I feel like Usman will probably get the win on decision.
50-45? You reckon all rounds go to Usman?
No, I'd say Edwards can pull. It sounds so harsh because I think
it does sound harsh.
Edwards can do it as well, but I just got that thing in the back of my mind that Usman's just gonna do what he needs to do to get it done. And as much as, listen, Edwards in the last fight, he was the first man to take Usman down in the UFC.
Yeah.
I just feel like wrestling, Usman's different class. And over the years, since I've been a fan of the UFC, I've seen, in my opinion, that wrestling is probably the ultimate mixed martial art.
Sure.
Because if you're a top wrestler coming up against a top striker, the wrestling can nullify the striking and so on. And we've seen that with Khabib. We're seeing it with Islam now. We've seen it with even Usman over the years too.
Yeah.
So I feel like with wrestling being the most efficient mixed martial art, and Usman needing to get it back now, because if Usman was to lose this one, then where does his career go from here? Obviously still big fights, but it'll be a long road back towards another championship fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe comes out after that, which I wouldn't mind seeing.
Yeah, I don't think any of us would mind seeing that, if I'm honest with you. That's actually true. That's actually true.
That's a hell of a matchup.
I guess the loser of this, whether it's Usman or Edward, probably comes up against Khamzat soon enough. If not, Colby as well. He's still in the round. I think Colby's playing it smart, taking a back seat, not agreeing to any fights yet, waiting to see maybe what happens with this. Because if Usman wins it, then I think Colby probably fights Khamzat for the next up. If Edwards wins it, then I think Colby's going to throw his hat in to go straight into a title fight. So
that's a good point.
I'm going to lean towards Usman, but I really want Edwards to do it. I really do, man. I think he's underrated. He's under talked about. He's been underused over the years. I just want him to get the job done again.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to go with the romantic version and say that he outclasses him, clinical striking, and finishes him with the same head kick.
Yeah.
But in 3 this time.
I'd love that.
That's what
I'd
I'm
much prefer that.
Yeah.
100%. My mind just keeps on going back to safety from Usman.
Yeah, I just think with Usman is like coming in, having gone to the Shadow Realm and coming back in. You know, there's that tentative nature, which probably will factor into him doing going more for the wrestling. Yeah. But I also think he's going to be shy where where Edwards is going to be confident. And I think that's where Edwards will be able to let his hands go a bit more, hopefully maintain distance, and come out with the KO win.
I just feel like even with letting his hands go, though, Usman done enough. I think Usman had more strikes in the last fight than Edwards did, and Usman had him shaken a bit on his feet. So I don't know whether Usman will take that away and say, well, listen, as much as he got the first takedown against me in the UFC, I've come up against a top striker and I've managed to outstrike him. Yeah. So it just does, and I think Usman took the loss pretty well.
Yeah, he did.
It's not like he's someone that seems to be rattled by it. He gave all the credit to Leon. He said, listen, he deserved it. It can happen. But, you know, it's all on the line on Saturday. We'll see. And I don't think the crowd or being in London will have an effect on Usman. I think that will actually lift him up even more.
Yeah, I think he's fine with that. I think he's been in front of crowds that probably weren't on his side due to his earlier in his career, the wrestling's heavy style. Now, obviously, kind of having finished Masvidal and stuff, knockout of the year, you know, he has got the hands. So let's see. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Once again, it's a shame that you can't be with us. But if you're at the event, you know, we'll do a little cheeky FaceTime.
Yeah. If I'm there, make sure you do. Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes in terms of chasing tickets, but we'll see.
Yeah, keep me posted. Make sure you tune in on Saturday night, live from 9 p.m. on DR Sports. Robbie's going to be hosting. I'm going to be by his side. We're also going to have a bunch of fight experts and a comedian. So it should be a fun one. Make sure you tune in.
This week, Saturday on DR Sports, we're going to be hosting a very special watch-along. It's UFC 286, and we're going to be doing a watch-along to the big fight. It is Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. You've got to come and check it out live here on DR Sports. I'm going to be hosting it with our brand new MMA host, Zaki, who'll be giving you the lowdown on the fight. Yeah, easy, bro.
You ready?
What's all this?
You said you're gonna get stuck in.
No, I ain't signed up for that. No.
What do you mean? That's what we said we're gonna do. Okay, we'll worry about Robbie in a sec. But listen, make sure you join us on Saturday evening from 9 o'clock, UFC 286, Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards, the trilogy fight. Who's gonna win? We'll find out on Saturday. Make sure you join us. Robbie, I swear we're gonna go live. I'm tapping.